Discover the surprising transformative reasons 6 millionaires are flocking to gold in 2025. Jack rubbed the back of his neck, the ache from years of toil settling into the contours of his muscles. Every day in the auto shop felt like a dream deferred. More cars to fix, more bills piling up at home, and an unrelenting pressure that wrapped around him like a tightrope. His head swirled with thoughts of his wife, Sarah, who glanced at the mounting bills with concern etched across her brow, and his children, who deserved more than the thin veneer of normalcy he managed to provide. The ache of his situation gnawed at him. He felt like a ship adrift, hoping for the storm to pass, yet making no effort to steer. Diving into the dusty attic was a rare escape from the daily grind. Tucked between old boxes, Jack discovered an old pocket watch, tarnished yet intricate. He turned it over and found a note tucked inside, its edges frayed. "Seek the treasure buried in the weight of the metal." The words pricked at something deep within him, an ember of hope igniting against the dark backdrop of his daily struggles. What treasure? Gold? Memories? Reinventing the future he envisioned but never dared to chase? As the cryptic clues unraveled, he felt a swell of curiosity mixed with fear. Could his grandfather's hidden wealth truly change their fate? The thought was intoxicating, yet dangerous, an uncertain path lined with the possibility of losing everything he held dear, even himself. Suddenly, his mind was aflurry. Could he forsake the life he knew for this gamble? The weight of that heritage pressed down on him, tangling itself with the unyielding loyalty he felt for Maplewood. He glanced toward the town beyond the attic window, the small, familiar streets pulsing with stories, faces, and friendships built over the years. Could he really consider leaving that for the allure of wealth? Jack's heart raced as he contemplated the rifts such a choice might carve in the community he cherished. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's chest tightened as whispers of grand plans echoed in his mind, stories shared by the self-made millionaires he met on this unexpected journey. He learned of their struggles, their triumphs, their moments of staggering doubt. Yet lurking in the back of his mind was a voice warning him against ambition. Each tale of success came with the looming shadow of loss. He sensed the precarious balance. Wealth could uplift his family, but at what cost to the fabric of Maplewood? The thought sent waves of unease through him, twisting his stomach in knots. As night fell, he stared at the pocket watch again, feeling its cool weight resting against his palm. The messages it seemed to carry made him confront the reality of his grandfather's hidden past, a past tainted with injustices that seeped from stories of gold. Faced with a paradox of ambition versus loyalty, Jack felt torn, fluttering between hope for a brighter future and the fear of alienating the very heart of his existence. The internal tumult crescendoed, leaving him hanging in uncertainty. Was he condemning himself to a path of isolation, or could this journey to wealth become one of reconciliation, uplifting both his family and the community? As the watch glinted in the dim light, he recognized the profound weight of his decision. It was no longer merely about gold, but about the legacy he would leave behind. Jack's thoughts spiraled as he clutched the pocket watch, its metallic glimmer in the fading light serving as both a sign of possibility and an anchor of his current obligations. He had always valued hard work and loyalty, but the threads of desperation were weaving tighter around him, constricting the breath of his ambitions. He glanced out from the attic, sensing the weight of Maplewood bearing down on him. What would they think if he pursued wealth at all costs? He stirred, the question lingering like smoke in the air. He couldn't ignore the burning desire for more, a chance to elevate her family's status, to provide opportunities for his children that he never had. At the same time, he understood the risks. Would others interpret his quest for wealth as a betrayal to their shared history, unraveling the very fabric of kindness and empathy that Maplewood represented? Jack leaned against the low attic beam, the aged wood rough against his palm, trying to ground himself. He needed to approach this with strategy. That ancient pocket watch felt like both a riddle and a resource, the key to unlocking knowledge about his grandfather that could reshape everything he thought he knew. Could there be hidden skills or insights buried within the family legacy that would empower him? His nights turned into restless adventures. He researched stories about wealthy entrepreneurs, finding common threads among interviews and biographies about transitioned lives. He noted their relentless pursuit of knowledge, their propensity to take calculated risks, and, most importantly, their willingness to face their fears. Confidence grew from understanding the risks they had navigated. Some had sacrificed relationships, while others forged deeper connections in their communities. With each passing day, Jack toyed with dual paths. One was the comfort of the routine life at the shop, where he was respected and familiar, and the other was the lure of pursuing something greater, even if it came at a price. One evening, glancing over a vague message his grandfather had left about the treasure, he realized it might not just refer to financial wealth, but to discovering hidden competencies within himself that could redefine his life. The thought of actively seeking out knowledge ignited a fearless spirit. Could he reinvent himself by learning about finance and investments, interpreting the ancient wisdom of the past in a modern context? His grandfather's life echoed within him, pushing him to bridge the gap between ambition and community loyalty. With an impromptu decision to take the leap, he enrolled in an online course on investing, motivated to delve deeper into a realm he knew little about, a realm where risks were measured and opportunities created. As the instructor spoke of market trends and gold as an asset, Jack became a voracious learner, fueled by his newfound drive and the desire to build a legacy. While engaging in these lessons, a deeper revelation emerged. The more he questioned his limitations, the more they began to dissolve. Jack could feel self-doubt receding as strategies turned into actionable insights. This personal development became transformative, awakening a leader within him he had assumed was buried under years of routine. Just when he thought he had grasped this new path, he received an unexpected phone call. A local investor was seeking newcomers to mentor, specifically looking for someone determined to change their financial future. The conversation rattled Jack, awakening intuitions he had yet to acknowledge. The moment had arrived, a chance to confront the fear of stepping out of his comfort zone and face the reality of taking this new opportunity seriously. With an eagerness spiraling into anxiety, Jack found himself standing at the precipice of destiny, considering whether to embrace this chance wholeheartedly or retreat to the familiar embrace of routine. Gripping the phone, he sensed this call could solidify or shatter his future. Should he answer, or was the silence safer? The moment hung heavily in the air, Jack's heartbeat thrumming in his ears. It was not just a phone call, it was a challenge, a chance to reshape his identity. He inhaled deeply, acknowledging the dual weight of fear and potential coiling within him. What if he said yes? Jack envisioned stepping into a world dominated by the financially savvy, where acronyms like ROI and equity would become part of his everyday vocabulary. The thought sent a surge of adrenaline through him. It also prompted an unsettling wave of doubt. What if he failed? What if he was not good enough? Emerging from a rigid routine felt terrifying. Jack had spent years nestling into the safety of his shop, surrounded by familiar faces and predictable days. Straying into the unknown came with consequences. Would the community he loved resent his ambition? A voice nagged at him, questioning whether this journey might lead him to abandon everything he had worked for. The ringing phone demanded his attention, slicing through his turbulent thoughts. With a quivering hand, he pressed the answer button and transformed that hypothetical moment into a tangible reality. The voice on the other end was undeniably persuasive, a confident stranger who spoke of markets and opportunities as though they were keys to unlock hidden doors. Jack was drawn in, ever conscious of the growing fire ignited within him, the melding of ambition with fear forming an exhilarating cocktail. As the conversation unfolded, Jack found himself drawn into discussions about strategies that could spur growth beyond his wildest dreams. But beneath the surface, a myriad of questions began to take root. Could he really navigate this complex landscape? Each strategy discussed felt like a stepping stone leading somewhere, an elevation that both thrilled and intimidated him. In that moment, he understood this was not merely about wealth, it was about rediscovering himself. After they hung up, Jack stood in an engulfing silence, his thoughts racing. There was a choice to make. He could either safeguard the remnants of the past, crafting a life ancillary to growth, or he could plunge into the unknown, letting ambition guide him to uncharted territory. The specter of inaction loomed ominously, yet the promise of transformation pulled at him with increasing urgency. He cast his gaze back towards the pocket watch, its enigmatic ticking echoing across the room. It was a relic of the past that held not only memories, but wisdom yet to be uncovered. Perhaps learning was not just an academic pursuit, but also a deeply personal journey, one that would test the very fabric of who he believed himself to be. In those quiet moments, he resolved to embrace the challenge ahead, to find mentors and delve deeper into the world of investing. A plan began to unfurl in his mind, filled with networking sessions and strategic readings. The unknown no longer felt like a fathomless void, but rather a palpable adventure waiting to be seized. He would arm himself with knowledge and unleash the leader once dormant within him. As Jack took his first steps into this new life, a surge of excitement began to erode the lingering shadows of doubt. Yet just as a glimmer of confidence began to solidify in his chest, a thought struck him. What about his family? How would his pursuit of wealth reshape their lives? Would it elevate them, or would it create a rift that could never be repaired? Determined yet apprehensive, he vowed to tread carefully. The journey ahead was not just about personal gain, it was about navigating the choppy waters of ambition and legacy. Then an unexpected message flashed on his phone, an invitation to the upcoming meeting with the investor. The weight of interwoven possibilities pressed down on him. This was his moment to reveal his newfound commitment to growth. But with every heartbeat, the reality of facing others loomed larger. Could he truly balance the expectations of his family with the unrelenting pull of ambition? In that moment of contemplation, the path forward became a cauldron of potential and peril, boiling down to one undeniable truth. The time had come to face the very fears that had constrained him for years. With resolve set deep inside, Jack took a breath, ready to answer the call to transform his future, both as an individual and as a guardian of his family's legacy. The question lingered as he prepared for the meeting. Was he ready for what he was about to uncover? Jack stood in front of the mirror, taking inventory of the man looking back at him. The morning light filtered through the window, illuminating the hints of uncertainty etched on his face. He straightened his posture, trying to summon the confidence he felt surging within after his call. Yet a nagging doubt shadowed his enthusiasm. Was he truly ready for the meeting? With each passing second, anxiety twisted in his gut. The impending encounter with the investor pressed upon him like a physical weight, amplified by questions swirling in his mind. What would the investor expect from him? What if he stumbled over his words, revealing how unprepared he still felt? The stakes loomed larger. Failure wasn't just a personal setback, but a risk to his family's support and future. Turning away from the mirror, he pulled out a notepad, his fingers trembling slightly as he jotted down key points. Each strategy he had learned from the past conversations echoed in his mind, yet translating theoretical knowledge into articulate discussion felt like scaling a cliff without gear. He resolved to push through these mental barriers, knowing that stepping into this meeting was essential for his transformation. His phone buzzed again, snapping him back to the moment. A notification had popped up, an article about successful self-made investors who emphasized the importance of mindset and preparation. He scrolled through snippets, absorbing insights about how they turned failures into learning experiences. Each story unveiled a universal truth about resilience that resonated deeply with Jack. If they could overcome their initial shortcomings, perhaps he could transcend his own fears. With newfound clarity, Jack began envisioning the meeting in detail. He imagined entering the elegant office with its floor-to-ceiling windows, filled with ambition and ambition-laden views of the city. He imagined the investor, a poised figure, brimming with the authority that years in finance could cultivate. Jack could see it all: the handshakes, the cautious exchanges of ideas, the flow of dialogue that could either elevate him or expose his weaknesses. And then a realization struck him. It wasn't just about impressing the investor, it was about understanding what he could bring to the table, what value he could add. The community he loved, the family that had bolstered his dreams, deserved to see him embrace this fresh journey. How could he convey that ambition while still being true to the core of who he was? What if he framed his ambition not merely as self-interest, but as a means to elevate those around him? Jack made a mental note to emphasize collaboration, to speak of shared success and mutual growth alongside personal gain. That reframing changed everything. It momentarily shifted the focus from his insecurities to the bigger picture. As he prepared to leave for the meeting, he felt his heart racing, not purely from fear, but from a budding sense of determination. This was a chance to redefine his narrative, to transition from the shopkeeper who has stood behind the counter to the proactive investor who could navigate financial landscapes. The thought of actively pursuing his dreams came with its own momentum, carrying him forward. He stepped outside, the cool air invigorating him. The world felt simultaneously immense and intimate, a blend of challenges and possibilities ripe for the taking. Each step towards the office felt charged with purpose. But beneath it all loomed an unshakable question. Could he truly reconcile his ambition with his development as a family-oriented man? The streets were alive with voices and movement, reflections of the very hustle he wanted to embody. Yet echoes of doubt simmered beneath his resolve. What awaited him in that conference room? Would he be met with acceptance or skepticism? Today wasn't just another meeting. It was a pivotal moment, a chance to navigate through personal growth and familial responsibilities. He approached the building with a blend of eagerness and apprehension. As he climbed the stairs towards the meeting, Jack felt the weight of his dual commitments press down on him. With the door looming ahead, he inhaled deeply, centering himself. What was about to unfold could either shape his path significantly or unravel the carefully stitched fabric of his life. Determined, he grasped the handle and turned it, ready to walk into a world that might finally reveal his true potential. Little did he know, the conversations to come would challenge not only his business acumen, but the very tenets of his identity. As Jack stepped into the spacious conference room, he was immediately enveloped in an atmosphere charged with opportunity and anticipation. The glossy mahogany table seemed to reflect the soaring ambitions of everyone present. He took a moment to absorb the view. The city skyline stretched into the distance, each building a testament to human achievement. But this impressive backdrop did little to ease the tumult in his chest. He spotted the investor, a man in his early 60s with a tidy silver beard and an impressive aura of confidence. That radiated from his every gesture. Jack's heart pounded in sync with the rhythm of his insecurities. He had envisioned this meeting countless times, yet now that it was real, his mind ran rampant with self-doubt. How could he stand before such a seasoned figure and articulate his vision when he felt so small in comparison? "Jack, is it?" the investor asked, extending a hand. His voice was a deep, commanding bass, captivating and authoritative. "Yes, I'm Jack. Thank you for seeing me today," he replied, struggling to maintain eye contact. He could feel his palms beginning to sweat. "Let's see what you've got then," the investor prompted, gesturing for Jack to take a seat. It was a simple invitation, but to Jack, it resembled a lion beckoning prey. Somehow, he had to muster the courage to turn this meeting into a dialogue, not a monologue of nervous rambling. As Jack launched into his presentation, reciting the carefully curated notes he had practiced, his earlier fears began to dissipate. With each point he delivered about market trends, the potential for sustainable investments, and the importance of collaborative growth, he felt an electric charge ignite within. He was not just spouting data, he was narrating a story, his story, one shaped by years of hard work and dreams worthy of pursuit. The investor leaned forward, his brow furrowing slightly. Jack hesitated for a split second, concerned that he was losing him. Perhaps he was too passionate, too eager. But then Jack remembered why he was there, to share not only figures and forecasts, but also conviction. He spoke of the community he wanted to uplift, the vision for the future that aligned profits with social responsibility. "Why are you so passionate about building a venture that gives back?" the investor interjected, his eyes narrowing with intrigue. Jack paused, the question striking a chord deeper than he anticipated. "Because it matters. My family's foundation built their lives on the premise of support and resilience. I believe that cultivating a business should reflect that ethos. Success isn't just personal, it's communal." His voice grew steadier as he articulated his beliefs, channeling his earlier resolve to focus beyond self-interest. The investor regarded him keenly, and for a moment the air between them thickened with unspoken possibilities. Jack wondered if this was not only a test of his business acumen, but also of the integrity of his values. To his surprise, the investor shifted the conversation toward personal aspirations, Jack's aspirations. He inquired about the motivations that had ignited such ambitions within him. Here, Jack found himself at a crossroads, teetering between revealing his vulnerabilities and showcasing a facade of confidence. He shared glimpses into his past, touching upon moments of hardship, ambition, and ultimately growth. The narrative flowed freely, no longer constrained by the weight of his doubts. He realized that vulnerability was not weakness, it was authenticity, a beacon that drew potential allies closer. As the meeting edged toward its climax, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. Instead of merely wanting approval, he sought a partnership built on common values. With each word, he began to shape the conversation into something transformative, not just for himself, but perhaps for the investor as well. The investor's expression was inscrutable as he concluded the meeting with an acknowledgement of Jack's insights. "You've given me much to think about," he remarked, leaving a trail of uncertainty hanging in the air. "We are built not just on numbers, but on stories. Let's see how yours can evolve." Stepping out of the building, adrenaline surged through Jack's veins, yet uncertainty still resided in his gut. He had opened his heart, but would it lead to opportunity, or merely reveal his inadequacies? What lay ahead was still unclear, but Jack understood one undeniable truth. He could no longer hide behind anxiety. He was committed to growth and to the promises made not only to himself, but also to those he cared about. As he walked away, his mind raced with potential avenues. How would he follow up on today's conversation? He realized the answer would take more than just reflection. It required action. Could he bridge the gap between his burgeoning ambitions and the lingering shadows of doubt that danced in his mind? It was a question that he was now determined to confront head-on. But as night began to stretch its shadows over the city, one thought took root in his mind. Perhaps the real challenge was just beginning. Jack spent the next few days replaying the meeting in his mind, dissecting every moment like a business analyst with a complex case study. He had delivered his vision with newfound conviction, but the uncertainty still buzzed in his consciousness. The investor's thoughtful pause haunted him. Was it genuine interest or mere politeness? As self-doubt crept back in, Jack began to question his own worthiness of such an opportunity. The desire to stand out tugged at him. If he was to secure a partnership, simply following up wouldn't suffice. He needed a strategy, but an introspective deep dive felt daunting. It was time to recommit to his personal development, and he acknowledged that rituals had helped him carve out clarity of purpose in the past. Early mornings with a cup of coffee and a well-worn journal had often led to breakthroughs in thought and direction. That evening, he found himself at his small kitchen table, notebook in hand, pen poised. The blank pages felt intimidating, as if they mirrored the uncertainties swirling in his mind. Taking a deep breath, he wrote, "What does success look like to me?" The words flowed as he penned his business philosophy, intertwining his vision with personal milestones. Success wasn't solely tied to financial gain. It stretched into the realms of influence, integrity, and the growth of others. Suddenly, the fog began to lift. Defining success ignited a spark. Maybe the intention of his venture wasn't simply to attract investors, but to illuminate a path others could follow. If he truly believed in collaborative growth and lifting communities, he needed to craft a narrative that appealed to the investor's desire for depth, for impact. A plan took shape. He would not just reach out to the investor, but also offer an invitation, a chance for collaboration, a mutually beneficial relationship built on shared values. Jack envisioned a follow-up meeting not just filled with pitches and projections, but a conversation rich with ideas about how they could catalyze change together. With clarity emerging, he returned to his journal, jotting down points to present during their next discussion. He brainstormed tangible steps, potential partnerships, and strategies for engaging with local entrepreneurs who shared his vision. Investment was about numbers, but it was equally about stories and movements, a shifting landscape that called for innovative thinking. Over the following days, Jack transformed his preparations into action. He reached out to contacts within his network, gathering insights on community ventures while elevating his profile among potential allies. The knowledge exchange sparked fresh ideas, and he realized he could both learn from and mentor others, a two-way street of influence. Then came the daunting task of reaching out to the investor again. With a pounding heart, Jack typed up an email that felt more like a call to arms. "I appreciate your thoughtful consideration about my vision. I'd love to explore how we could take this forward together, particularly around community endeavors that drive mutual growth. Let's meet again and delve deeper into potential synergies." After hitting send, he felt exposed but exhilaratingly alive. There was significance in opening up space for both vulnerability and ambition. But now the waiting began. As he stared out of his apartment window, watching the city skyline shift against the twilight, a realization washed over him. It wasn't just about waiting for permission to act. He had already begun transforming his narrative. Yet, as he settled into a sense of hopeful anticipation, a shadow of doubt began to creep back. What if the investor didn't share his vision for a deeper connection? What if Jack misread the nature of their meeting? He shook off the spiraling thoughts, reminding himself that the only path to growth was through challenging uncertainties head-on. As he turned away from the window, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from the investor, and Jack's heart raced. Would it affirm the transformative potential he sensed, or would it signal a return to his previous doubts? He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever revelation awaited. Jack realized in that moment that confronting uncertainty was now an integral part of his journey. Little did he know, the next message would pivot his trajectory in an unexpected direction. Jack opened the email with a sense of trepidation, heart hammering in his chest. He read the investor's response carefully, each word lingering in the air like an unspoken promise. "I appreciate your passion, Jack. Let's schedule a time to discuss this further. I'm curious about your ideas regarding community ventures and how we might work together." The relief that washed over him was profound, yet it ignited a fresh wave of pressure. This was his moment to engage not just as a pitchman, but as a collaborator and innovator. He understood he must harness this opportunity strategically, presenting not merely a proposal, but a partnership that could blossom creativity and growth. Refusing to be paralyzed by fear, Jack turned to his journal once more. He scribbled furiously, drafting points he envisioned discussing that would align their mutual interests. Collaboration meant sharing aspirations, but he also needed to present a clear, compelling case for why their partnership mattered. Jack wrestled with conflicting thoughts. He wanted authenticity in his pitch without presenting it as an obligation. The stakes felt astronomically high. He wasn't merely asking for funding, he was inviting someone to join a vision. As the meeting day approached, Jack immersed himself in research, studying the investor's past ventures, his philosophies, and values. The more he learned, the clearer it became that this was not just about finances. The investor had a long-standing reputation for supporting initiatives that yielded transformative impacts. This insight guided him to pivot his narrative, focusing on the potential for social entrepreneurship and innovative solutions to pervasive issues. Yet, as he prepared his narrative, an unsettling thought struck him. What if he was perceiving this connection through rose-tinted glasses? Would an investor like him truly resonate with a pitch rooted in altruism? The line between idealism and realism blurred, a constant push and pull. Jack forced himself to confront his fear of rejection. Was it misguided ambition to believe they could change the world together? Navigating this inner tension meant balancing vulnerability and professionalism. He was tired of hiding behind conventional resumes. His handwritten notes were raw and organic, threading his authentic self through the strategy he had crafted. Challenging eras of self-doubt required a firm grounding in what he truly wanted to achieve, success entwined with purpose. On the day of the meeting, Jack dressed meticulously, the fabric of his shirt a tangible reminder of his transformation. The city buzzed with life around him, a backdrop of possibility. Walking into the meeting room, a mix of excitement and trepidation coursed through him. The moments stretched as they exchanged pleasantries, but beneath the surface, Jack's mind raced. How could he present his vision without overwhelming his audience? And how would he authentically express the essence of his aspirations? The words he rehearsed faltered as he faced the investor's piercing gaze, one that demanded depth and engagement. Jack felt the weight of expectations. Their meeting was a pivotal moment, one that might dictate future paths. As the discussions unfolded, he took the plunge, weaving together dreams and concrete plans. He invited the investor to envision their potential impact, sharing stories of those who might benefit. In that moment, as he watched the investor's expression shift from curiosity to intrigue, Jack vividly understood that this was beyond business. It was about creating change. After an intense back and forth, the investor leaned back, a contemplative look crossing his face. "You're passionate, Jack. Tell me, what drives you? What keeps you awake at night?" The question lingered in the air, heavy with expectation. Jack's heart raced. It was a leap into vulnerability, but perhaps this was the true test of their connection. He inhaled deeply, ready to uncover layers of his purpose, determined that this meeting would not only reveal his ambitions, but also delve into the core of who he was. Would he summon the courage to unveil the truth wrapped beneath his professional facade? Or would he slip back into the shadows of uncertainty? The answer awaited. The delicate balance between ambition and authenticity. As his voice steadied, Jack began to speak, drawing on emotions he had kept closely guarded. He understood now the significance of this moment, an opportunity not only to shape a future, but also to redefine himself. As Jack inhaled deeply, the weight of the investor's question hung in the air, transforming the atmosphere of the room. Gone was the polished pitch. Instead, he found himself standing on the precipice of authenticity, an expedition into the raw elements of his purpose. He had often practiced talking about numbers, projections, and models, but this felt different. This was not simply leveraging facts. This was about exposing his spirit. "What drives me?" Jack echoed quietly, his voice carrying a tremor that belied his uncertainty. He felt the silence envelop him, pressing against his chest, urging the words to come forth. "I want to create something, not just for profit, but to sculpt a legacy," he confessed. "I want to build a world where transformative ideas bridge gaps, where innovation speaks to the heart of community needs." He caught the investor's gaze, searching for signs of resonance, hoping to go beyond superficial engagement. The investor's brow seemed to furrow slightly, as if weighing the values that shaped Jack's ambitions. The connection deepened. It was no longer just a financial proposal. It had evolved into a philosophical dialogue, a meeting of minds seeking an impactful union. Jack continued, pushed by an invisible force. "I often lie awake, dreaming about the potentials that could unfold, the possibilities of what we're capable of creating together, a future where social consciousness marries profitability. It's what fuels my every decision." As he spoke, he noticed subtle shifts in the investor's demeanor, the thoughtful nods, the glimmer of intrigue in his eyes. These were hints indicating that Jack's transparency was being received, that perhaps he wasn't simply pitching an idea, but was inviting him into a shared journey of discovery. With every confident word Jack uttered, he confronted the complexities within himself. Would this partnership only solidify his ambition, or could it also challenge him to embrace vulnerability in professional spaces? He had spent years concealing parts of himself behind a facade of polished professionalism. Now he saw an opportunity to let his passion shine through. "What sorts of projects are you interested in?" The investor pivoted, eyes narrowed slightly as though he was dissecting Jack's sincerity. "Because I see a fire in you, but not everyone approaches social entrepreneurship with the right intentions." Jack's heart raced. The question was a gauntlet thrown. His mouth felt dry, but he fought the instinct to retreat into vagueness. "I want to pursue projects that address climate challenges, initiatives that empower people with opportunities for sustainable living. I believe we can foster economic growth that respects our planet and nurtures marginalized communities at the same time. It's not just viable, it's essential." The investor absorbed this, his calculating gaze still fixed on Jack. "But what makes you think you're the right person to lead this change? It's an enormous undertaking." Each word felt like a trial, pushing Jack to establish his qualifications not through resume bullets, but from the depths of his belief. Jack took a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I may not have decades of experience, but I possess an unyielding drive. I've faced setbacks, felt the sting of failure, and yet I've risen each time with deeper insight. It's those experiences, my failures, that uniquely equip me to connect with others, to understand struggles, and to innovate solutions that resonate on a human level." Silence enveloped them again, thick with tension. Jack sensed that this was a critical moment, where raw honesty collided with the reality of his inexperience. Would the investor see his failures not as weaknesses, but stepping stones towards growth? Could his vision supersede a lack of traditional credentials? The investor leaned in, the intensity of his gaze igniting Jack's resolve further. Suddenly, he felt less like a beggar at the table, and more like an essential contributor to a larger dialogue. There was still so much at stake. Yet with each word uttered, he was unearthing layers of himself he had long buried under fear. As their conversation continued, Jack's words flowed more freely, a mingling of dreams and pragmatism, vulnerability and strength. But beneath the surface of the discussion, he wrestled with a new concern. What if this partnership, while promising, came with strings he wasn't prepared to acknowledge? What were the sacrifices he would be forced to make once they ventured into the unknown together? The time for a decision was fast approaching, and the path ahead illuminated both opportunity and risks. In that moment, amid the ebb and flow of ideas, the investor posed another question. What will you do if the path forward reveals an entirely different vision than the one you've painted? With his pulse racing and heart thumping, Jack faced a crossroads that could define his destiny. The answer loomed ominously, tinged with the urgency of self-discovery. Would he maintain course in service of his ideals, or allow the thunderous roar of reality to reshape his narrative profoundly? A blend of excitement and dread coursed through him. His determination intensified. The time had come to face the real implications of his ambitions. Would he have the courage to embrace not just the rewards, but also the uncertainties that lay in his pursuit for authenticity and change? The investor's question lingered in Jack's mind like a ghost, flickering between the future he envisioned and the uncertainty that gnawed at the corners of his resolve. Moments passed, yet the urgency within him ignited an internal dialogue that felt both thrilling and terrifying. What if the investor's vision clashed starkly with his own? What if the partnership, which seemed so promising in this moment, would demand concessions that eroded the very essence of his mission? He could almost feel his ideal slipping away, an unsettling thought that threatened to disrupt the clarity he had fought so hard to find. Jack took a breath, grounding himself amid the chaos of his thoughts. He acknowledged the risk ahead, the possibility that his fervor could be misaligned with reality. If a different vision emerges, he began slowly, his voice steady despite the interior turmoil, I'd need to make a choice. Stay authentic to my purpose or adapt. But I believe in the ability to pivot without surrendering core values. That doesn't mean abandoning my idealism. It means coupling it with pragmatic strategies. He watched the investor closely, picking up the nuanced reactions. Was there admiration flickering in those calculating eyes, or skepticism? Jack pressed on, propelled by a blend of courage and vulnerability. If anything, being confronted with divergent perspectives might strengthen my resolve. It's through those challenges that innovation thrives. I want to be adaptable, not just stubbornly rigid. The world is too complex for one-size-fits-all solutions. The investor leaned back slightly, processing Jack's words. Jack seized that moment. There was clarity in his articulation, a chance for deeper self-exploration. He found himself wondering whether his willingness to embrace the unknown was, ironically, the true test of his readiness. Could he remain flexible yet steadfast? The stakes were high, and the potential for misalignment deeply unsettling. Would he have the resilience to navigate through a tumultuous partnership while still holding on to his ideals? The reality of entrepreneurship, the investor said, a thoughtful tone replacing the earlier tension, is that it requires balance. It's essential to remain connected to your mission, but to also recognize the facts that surround it. The market is unpredictable. Adaptation is not failure, it's survival. Jack felt a pulse of recognition in those words. They resonated with his own experiences, with the struggles he had faced that taught him invaluable lessons about the limits of control. His life had been a series of adaptations. To forego that learning was to deny his growth. He took a moment, refocusing on the investor. You're right. I view challenges as invitations for growth. Each setback has equipped me with a stronger insight into human needs. That's my compass. But I'd also like to be candid about my thresholds. I refuse to allow profitability to blind the purpose behind it. You speak with conviction, the investor replied, a tone of careful respect emerging. But what happens when the vision you seek conflicts with financial incentives, when the choices presented could compromise your integrity? A chill swept over Jack. This was the crux. where the idealistic pursuit of change met the hard truths of the business world. He could feel the weight of that question pressing upon him. He had already decided that pursuing profits at the cost of his values was a line he would not cross. "Then I would reassess," Jack said boldly, his heart racing as he confronted his own limitations. "A reconsideration doesn't mean I'm wavering. It means ensuring I'm navigating the path responsibly. If the mission compromises, I would seek an exit that aligns with my integrity. I want to nurture a vision that genuinely serves." Their dialogue had morphed into a mutual exploration, though the scrutiny remained. Jack realized this was no longer merely a pitch, it was a forging of connection through honesty. Yet within his resolve lingered a cloud, a haunting specter of self-doubt. Could he hold his ground? Would he want to if it inevitably cost him opportunities or support? As tension surged in the atmosphere, he felt a flicker of determination swell within him. This was part of the journey. This dance of ideals and realities was shaping him in ways he had yet to fully grasp. And just as Jack felt a glimmer of clarity, the investor leaned closer. "I'm intrigued, Jack, but tell me, how would you react in moments where those ideals you cherish are put to the test? Are you prepared to confront the personal ramifications of that commitment?" Jack's heart pounded fiercely. The exchange had shifted from professional to profoundly personal. His response bore the weight of impending revelations. Would he truly be ready to face the even deeper complexities of his own convictions? The next chapter in this journey was calling, and he felt the urgency of decisions, large and small, closing in like a tide, ready to reshape everything he thought he knew about himself. Jack stood at a crossroads, the weight of his recent conversations echoing in his mind. Each exchange, each inquiry had peeled back layers of himself he never knew existed. The investor's latest question stung with honesty and urgency. How would he react when his ideals were challenged? In that moment, Jack distilled his thoughts down to a singular truth. True integrity is forged under fire. Would he rise to confront the very essence of his vision or buckle under the pressure of competing interests? Taking a decisive step forward, Jack felt a newfound clarity solidify his purpose. "I want to assure you that I will hold steadfast to my values, even when the going gets tough," he replied, confidence fueling each word. "But I will also commit to dialogue, to listening, adapting, and evolving without losing sight of what matters. Challenges will come, and I welcome them as opportunities to refine my approach. If it ever reaches the point where my principles are in direct conflict with my pursuits, I won't shy away. I will confront it head-on and make choices that reflect my integrity." The investor's eyes narrowed, and Jack felt an internal shift, as if he had touched on something profound. This was not merely a business transaction. It was an alignment of visions, a collaborative journey that could redefine both their paths. With newfound certainty, Jack expanded on his vision. He articulated the principles that intricately stitched ambition to responsibility. We can create a platform that shares profits with initiatives focused on education, environmental sustainability, and community resilience. Beyond just numbers, it's about personal impact. He could see the investor nod, slight shifts of interest playing across his face. Jack knew they were onto something. Beyond the superficiality of capitalistic goals lay the possibility of something truly transformative. As the conversation deepened, the investor pushed further. "But that's lofty ambition, Jack. How do you intend to execute on these promises while also navigating the challenges of the market?" Jack hesitated for a moment, reflecting on the past weeks of his journey, his research, his consultations, and most importantly, his personal growth. Authenticity will guide my efforts, along with the recognition that local communities hold the knowledge necessary for their growth. Bringing them into the conversation isn't just effective, it's essential. He felt a sense of liberation pierce through the uncertainty that had clouded him for so long. Jack's journey was no longer just about building wealth. It was about crafting a legacy that would resonate even beyond his own lifetime. In reply, the investor leaned back, fingers steepled thoughtfully. "I admire your vision. However, knowing how to articulate an idealism isn't enough. It's about having an intricate plan, complete with metrics that speak to both community value and profitability." Jack smiled, eager at the opportunity to step deeper into this robust dialogue. "I've been researching models that balance community engagement with profit metrics. I envision conducting feasibility studies in partnership with local organizations while collecting data to measure success. Ensuring transparency through regular updates will build trust and accountability. I'm ready not just to create change, but to track each step we take, proving that ethics and entrepreneurship can coexist." He felt emboldened as he spoke, a testament to his transformation, from the man overwhelmed by self-doubt in the attic to a self-assured individual with a clear vision. As they drew closer to the conclusion of their meeting, Jack sensed a reconciliation taking shape, not just between them, but within himself. He realized that not only was he presenting an opportunity for investment, he was offering the investor a chance to partake in a powerful movement, potentially changing the very fabric of their communities. When the meeting wrapped up, the investor rose and extended his hand again, a glint of respect sparkling in his eyes. "Jack, I see potential, not in your plans alone, but in the passion that underscores them. Let's continue this conversation. I'd like to delve into the specifics of how we can align our efforts." Jack grasped the investor's hand, knowing his acknowledgement foreshadowed a profound shift, not only for his aspirations, but for the legacy he aimed to create. With that singular moment, he felt the last of his fears slip away, replaced by a solid confidence that the cumulative efforts of vision, integrity, and passion had finally coalesced into a path carved distinctly by his own hands. As he stepped outside, a rush of air enveloped him, a physical manifestation of the transformations he had undergone. Jack was no longer adrift. He was anchored in purpose and clarity, ready to steer the ship toward uncharted waters that held the promise of prosperity rooted in community upliftment. He was set to launch a venture where principles of collaboration would thrive amid the pursuit of financial success, finally proving to himself and those he loved that he could indeed have it all. Now, readers, this is your moment. Do not hold back. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel, so don't wait even one more second.